Taxation is theft.
Please, at least leave us alone in our living room.
My job is to find the truth.
Double the taxes. I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. Triple the taxes.
This is an IRS agent's dream.
If you think that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourself.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Sorry, but I don't do taxes.
Did you see the memo about this?
The government is a greedy piglet.
Just leave us alone.
Do you know what Ralph just said?
The roads.
You boys like Mexico?
I'm as bad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
And welcome back. Taxation is theft. I almost forgot to turn the audio back on again. That's what happens when you run a show with one person. Everybody welcome Dre, the Liberator, from the Drunken Disorderly show. You probably recognize her. I'm sure we have a lot of the same audience. And welcome. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
I got a
absolutely.
this afternoon from Zach telling me I have a gig, and I'm like, oh, all right, I better get my ass home.
Yeah. So how about these taxes?
Oh, God. Don't get me started. Oh, no.
Yeah. So,
right.
Speaking of taxes and politics, did you hear about Bernie Sanders?
Oh, boy. So poor old Bernie, like, I only saw the headlines today. I didn't get a chance to read anything. He's having heart surgery. Is that right?
Something like that. I didn't see if it was like, they made it sound like it was an emergency, but then they made it sound like he went in for, like, what do they call it? Cosmetic heart surgery or something. And, and I'm like, okay, but that's kind of like what they do if it was an emergency, to like play it down so that nobody gets in a panic and says, oh, we have to find out who we're going to vote for because he's not going to make it to the end of the election.
Yeah, like I saw that he's just stopped. He's suspended all campaign stops from here on out until further notice.
Yeah.
So Bernie might be out of the race.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. A lot of people are like, sending him bad wishes because, communism and all that. And I'm just like,
Right.
Okay, come on, guys.
Yeah, he doesn't need our bad wishes. I mean, he's brought enough on himself with his communist, socialist ideas, and sounds like his heart isn't going to do it for him. So
it was in the right place. It just wasn't. It's got some unintended.
It just doesn't function properly.
Yeah. Which is kind of like socialism.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, yeah, we're going to take care of all these people. We're going to do all these wonderful things. Oh, shit. Where did the military come from? And why don't we have any food?
What? We were just standing in the bread line.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's interesting because, like, I always see people who are, socialism wasn't done right. We've never had real socialism. And I think the thing is, like, this is what I was thinking today. Like, with socialism, it's kind of like I haven't even thought of like a good analogy for it, but it's like it's the unachievable ideal. Like, you can say, I'm gonna make an airplane that's so light, the entire, like, it's a 500 passenger airplane that only weighs 1 pound, and it's like, yeah, that sounds wonderful. You'd save so much on fuel, but it's like, then you implement it and you're building it out of paper, and of course the thing, like, because paper doesn't have any structural integrity to it, it's gonna collapse. And that's kind of like what socialism is, because no matter how you try to start it, you always kind of like, oh, well, people aren't voluntarily participating in this. We're going to have to send military out to take all their goods and to force them to comply. And, oh, shit, it's still not working. We have to come up with even stricter measures and send out more guns and shit, our troops are starving. We need to reallocate the food and make sure that they're fed so that they can carry out the orders to make sure all the people are getting their free healthcare and free food, which they can't get. And it's like, that's why you can't have it, because the equation just never adds up.
Never. And it's always at the end of a gun, and they don't realize that. They think it's with the greatest of intentions, but again, you're sending thugs with guns to people's houses to make them comply at the end of the day, or at the end of whatever, at the end of the bread line.
The end of the bread line.
At the end of the bread line, there's a guy with a gun who's going to kill you if you don't comply.
Right. Oh, man.
You are frozen, Dan. I don't know what to...
Yeah, you are too.
Oh, okay.
Which I just noticed. I was about to say, like, we're having some technical issues, but the sound works fine, so hey, that's cool. And you're okay. Frozen in a nice pose there with kind of a half smile on, so it's not like a terrible picture.
Well, that's good at least, I guess, huh?
I know I probably wasn't too convincing with that, but yeah, what's going on with Skype today?
Skype, I only use Skype at work. This is my personal Skype, and I've only used it like once. So I don't really know. At work, it's much easier. Everything is much more user-friendly. So maybe I'm just done with personal Skype.
Maybe it's maybe it just needs to be updated or something. Yeah. How about that? Do you ever get like these bugs on your Facebook? I know everybody hates Facebook, and they're always like, just get off of Facebook, man. But it's like, sorry, I'm gonna spray myself with some more Agent Orange here, because I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes. But like, my Facebook is acting up real bad. Like, but it's only the app. I go to the desktop and it works kind of fine. And I mean, they've always been, a shitty app, but oh, now we're totally disconnected. Are you there? This might be a shit show today. Are you there? Can you hear me? No, I guess not. All right, let me do this. I'm going to give me 1 second here, and I'm going to try to reconnect. Hey, you there?
Hello.
All right, that seems to be working better.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. It may have been a cat technical difficulty. She was rubbing on the computer, and then all of a sudden the window just went away, but I don't know how she could have closed the window. Rubbing on the edge of the laptop.
I used to work at this office a long time ago, and I mean, this office was like, oh man, I got so many stories from that place, because the guy running it was like, he was high on crack half the time, and like, it was, oh man, so many stories. But anyway, so there was this cat, and he would always like sit, this is like when we had, the big CRT monitors. Mm-hmm. And he would always like sit on top of a CRT monitor, and this was in the days where like the monitor and the computer were separate, right? Uh-huh. He would sit on top of the monitor and the computer would crash like almost every single time. And like, we were just like, what the fuck is going on here?
That's not no sense. Yeah, it makes zero sense. I used to work at, that's funny, I used to work at the software company, and it was pretty small, but the owner was kooky as hell, and I'm sitting there one day making sales calls, and in walks a cat on a harness and a leash. And that was the first time I had ever seen this. This is like in the 90s. And I'm like, whoa! Because she'd let people bring their dogs in sometimes, and every once in a while you'd see a dog running around and
as long
whatever.
As it's on a leash.
But yeah, the cat's on a leash and just hanging. It was a huge, fluffy kitty. I walk my cats on leashes. I don't know if you knew that. It's like a normal thing that I do. Well, I don't do it very often anymore. I did it when I lived on the ground floor, and I'd sit outside and smoke cigarettes every night with my neighbors, drink beer. Yeah, so I'd have the cats on leashes when they were babies. And everybody there had 2 giant dogs. So they have no problem with people and no problem with giant dogs. And no problem with leashes either.
Nice.
Yeah, they will run like a dog. It's funny.
Yeah, that's interesting. We well, so I was talking about my HOA, earlier. So we we voted on some new rules and everything, and one of the rules was you can't leave your dogs on the balcony, which I was like, okay, fine. And then I found out it was because because like my dogs are always yapping, like, and they're these little small dogs, right? So you can hear them from outside. And it turns out the guy who came up with that rule actually hated the person who had a dog that they left on the balcony in like the building next to ours. And so it was like, it was a seemingly innocent rule, like don't leave your dogs on the balcony, like, yeah, because we care about our pets, and but it's like, no, it's because you go out to walk your dog and then you hear the other dog barking from the balcony, and then your dog goes crazy and you hate the owner because it's, all that kind of stuff.
See, I forget you're down in Mexico, and so here it would be like, you can't leave your dog on the balcony. Anything could happen. I mean, it could be snowing, and then it could be rays of sunshine 5 minutes later, It's just not okay to do that here. But that's funny. We have somebody who, when I sit on the balcony, I don't know what it is. It's some motorized thing, and I'm not exactly sure what it's saying. All I know is it goes off all the time. You know those Billy Bass face things? If you walk by it, it's motion activated, and it sings a little song.
Uh-huh.
Somebody has something similar to that around here. Oh, I can't wait till I find it. Ooh, that airsoft gun is coming out.
Oh, man.
Well, because it goes off all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, Halloween's coming up, so you get one of those witches.
That'd be fine, as long as they're not constantly walking past it. Like, it must be in a hallway, like, or there's bugs flying by. I don't know.
That would be like if you're gonna set your house up for the boogaloo, you could have all that
There you
stuff, and then have it on like a delayed timer to the to all the explosives that are rigged to go off. So you get like a bass song before it blows up in your face. Okay, I'm gonna end up on a list after this show. I'm still over here. I'm a little bit distracted if you haven't noticed, because I'm still trying to figure out how the fuck to share this video, and it's not letting me share it right now. So Facebook is still definitely having some tech issues today.
Yeah, like I have been having issues posting anything to Facebook from my phone. And like scheduling stuff to our page, like the Drunk and Disorderly page, I can typically schedule stuff out for 2 weeks, but not anymore. I can only see it for a certain amount of posts. Then it's like, I'm still scheduling them and putting them up there. It doesn't show them to me. So I'm like, I hope they're up there.
Yeah, it's, so I look at Facebook in a few different ways. One, as a software engineer, I look at it and say, oh my God, this thing is garbage. Nothing ever works. But then as time goes on, things get worse, and I look at it like, oh my God, this is a tool of the state, and they're just blocking me from doing things. Like, I have this thing where, like, on the app, if I try to comment, and apparently a lot of other people in our circle are getting this, you try to comment, and it gives you, like, the little red alert circle, and but here's the interesting thing. If you restart the app and you go there, you can post a comment. So it's like something in the app that's broken. But it's been broken for so long, you would think there'd be more people experiencing the problem and they'd fix it.
Well, see, the problem is it's intermittent.
Yeah.
So I had this issue like last week and a little while before that, and then it's come back and I've been okay and I've been able to post. So, you know what I mean? People are like, oh, you just need to do an update. Oh, you're being paranoid. You're not shadow banned. Okay.
And so I can tell you from the companies that I've worked at, all of the engineers at Facebook are probably sitting there like, well, it works on mine. So there's no problem that we have to worry about.
True.
And so
it worked for me.
Yeah. And of course, okay, well, do you guys have an account that you've been testing that's on the libertarian block list? Maybe that, and they're probably, well, if you're on the libertarian block list, we don't care if things aren't working for you because you're on the block list.
I thought maybe they would spare us since we're not, the enemy,
Mm-hmm.
But I guess anybody but them is the enemy, so.
Oh, but we are the enemy because we like big corporations who don't treat their employees well, like Facebook.
Oh, that's right.
Because Facebook's
that
like one of these.
Stealing votes.
The what?
Oh, and we're stealing votes, don't forget.
Oh yeah, poor Hillary.
Right? Oh my God. Like, what was she going to do without our
It's
votes?
bad enough like all of her friends die from these weird, rare coincidences and just circumstances that she has to deal with us stealing her votes.
I know. She's got so much on her plate, that poor woman.
Oh.
And Bill and his declining health. I mean, is he really even alive, or is he just a skeleton that they're propping up and like a puppet?
Right? Like he like see, so you know that theory about Walt Disney and they kept him alive by freezing his head or something in a jar.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So he's probably like still developing like machines and puppetry that can keep Bill going. Um, yeah, I hear Hillary bought the head at an auction. um, man. Okay, that's some dark humor for the show. Yeah, because no, this is a nice change of pace because we're always talking about politics too much and holy shit, I hate these mosquitoes. This was a bad idea.
Dude, I don't think you put enough of that stuff on. You really got to layer it. You got to get through all that leg hair, too.
I don't want to get cancer either because I know this is like, you know, this is, I might set myself on fire later, too. Like when I'm running down the stairs, I'm gonna like, my shoulder's just gonna
Friction.
make a little,
Friction.
static electricity. Holy shit, I saw a video of a guy blowing himself up in a truck. They were like sticking those giant rolls of like insulation or something in the truck, and this guy was kind of like in between them and he's crawling out, and I guess he charged himself up, and when he got out of that stuff and touched the bottom of the truck, he set a spark and it set the whole inside of the truck on fire.
Oh my God.
It was insane.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, apparently.
A truck went up like that, huh? That stuff is so flammable.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was a big fire, but it wasn't like an explosion. I mean, it looked like an explosion because, you know, the camera has to adjust to all the extra light. So you see it, like, the whole screen goes white. But then, like, once the camera adjusts, you see the guy. He's standing there like, what the hell just happened? And he's still halfway on fire, and then he jumps out of the truck. So, you know, he survived. But, yeah, that's... Man.
Are they supposed to wear special suits so that doesn't happen?
I mean, I guess they, you know, if it's like gasoline or something, yeah, because you're expecting that. But I guess if you're not expecting these things, there ought to be a law. They should have known. See, if
there ought to be a law.
If there was a regulation on that, they would have known that it was flammable and that it creates static electricity.
You should probably just know that if you work with that shit.
Yeah.
I know it. I've never worked with it.
See, but that's the interesting thing, right? Like, we all know that you shouldn't play with your radio while it's plugged into the wall, because I have to add that because most radios are battery powered now. You shouldn't play with your wall powered radio while you're in the bathtub because you could electrocute yourself. We only know that because of movies that we've seen. Like, we weren't born with this knowledge. Like, somebody gave us a warning. Maybe we stuck something in the electrical socket when we were young. We know these things because we were taught. So at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, warning labels make sense sometimes, even though it's like, okay, who doesn't know this? But, you know, like the ones on the irons that say, don't use this while you're wearing the clothes.
Dude, let them do it. Let them.
I mean, when you introduce this technology to people who have never seen it before.
Well, okay, so that's one thing. But it's a whole nother thing to put warning labels on. Like, no. I'm fine with doing away with a lot of warning labels. We'll thin out the herd that needs to go. You know, if you need a warning label for that, chances are you're not contributing much to society. You probably need a lot of help in your everyday life. And maybe you're just a dredge on society that we don't need.
I mean, you got to give people a fair chance, right? I mean, here's one. Like, most responsible gun owners have gone to some sort of gun safety class at some point in their life, right? Like, even if it wasn't
Yep.
an official class, they've had a parent like teach them, like, don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot it. Never
Yes.
point it at somebody unless you want to kill them. So, but of course there are no warning labels on guns, and you don't see. I mean, yeah, you see accidents every once in a while, but it's not like every single person is doing that, like, to crazy.
Right. It's not every single police officer that goes to demonstrate in front of a class that shoots himself in the leg. It's not.
Or walks
Perhaps
into
you need
the wrong
the warning
apartment
label.
and kills somebody.
Right, or that, I mean, I always walk into the wrong apartment, especially when there's shit outside that's not mine.
Yeah.
Decorations and floor mats. I just, Dude, I was talking about that today with a coworker. I'm like, I have come home, and I've lived in a lot of apartments, and I've gotten blacked out, shit-faced drunk many, 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 many times. Never once attempted to go into the wrong apartment. Not once. Not even when I
Right.
wasn't even going home to my own apartment, when I was going home to a friend's apartment. I always managed to find the right door.
Right.
Period.
And even if she was drunk, wait, did she say she was drunk, or did she just say she
No.
was tired?
She had just gotten off the job. She had her uniform
Yeah.
on. She could have called for help while she was standing outside the door. Yeah.
I mean, like, if that says anything, like, these were completely normal circumstances and she just got off the job, then I think that entire department needs to reevaluate their hiring process or their scheduling or something. That, are these people overworked? Was this like a 48-hour shift that she just got off of, or what? That she doesn't know
No.
her own apartment.
I have to agree. I think that it's all bullshit. All her excuses are bullshit. I think it's all a huge lie. I think she had a personal relationship with this person, and we know she did because they have social media pictures together. I think something went wrong. She got mad, and she shot the guy in cold blood. Sorry, I don't think she went into the wrong apartment. I think she had either his door was unlocked or she had a key, and she entered his apartment with the intention of killing him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only story that adds up, really.
Yeah. And, I couldn't believe that the judge allowed the Castle Doctrine defense to be used. I've seen so many articles today. Was it the trial fair? That sure as fuck wasn't a fair defense. There's no reason in the world she should have been able to use that defense.
Right. If it was her own. I mean, so here's the thing. What if, okay, let's ask not in this scenario, but hypothetically, somebody else did walk into an apartment that reasonably they could have believed was their own, and they saw somebody else and ended up shooting them. Would it be fair in that case to say, well, like, how would that case go? Because would you want to allow the Castle Doctrine, or would you at least just say, okay, it was mistaken identity and it's manslaughter, not murder?
No, because you're not in your house. You cannot use the Castle Doctrine just because you think you're in your house. I'm sorry, you have to have some responsibility about your awareness of where you are. If you're going to be responsible enough to carry a gun, you should have enough awareness to know where the fuck you are on planet Earth, whether it is not your home or not.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair,
They
actually.
nail a citizen to the wall way quicker than that. Well, Texas moved really quickly on this because this happened, a couple months ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm really surprised about that, because usually the government
It's like
protects
every
its own.
year.
What's
Right. That too. But I'm surprised at how quickly this went to trial, got wrapped up, and she was sentenced. Like, she was found guilty on Tuesday, and today she was sentenced. That's crazy.
Right.
I like their expedience. Hats off to Texas for not wasting the people's time and money.
Which, as a matter of fact, in most other cases, they would. Like if you or I were being charged, they'd probably draw it out as much as they possibly can for months and months and months. I've got a friend who's being charged with some bullshit. It's a federal crime, but I don't want to talk too much about the details. But
Sure.
They've been sitting on this case for over 2 years. He's set to go to trial on the 15th. If they don't postpone it again, and because he's been set for trial, 3 or 4 times already, and it's been 2 years. He keeps asking for information from the prosecutors, and they keep refusing to deliver discovery. There's like all
Oh my
this
God.
bullshit going on. He's gotten screwed so many times by this system. And then I started reading this book. It's called 3 Felonies a Day. It's the whole, the average American commits 3 felonies a day. And one of the stories that I was like, kind of or actually it was the introduction of the book. They were talking about all the exact same shit that I watched my friend go through, where these judges are just screwing people left and right. They're screwing them out of their right to an attorney. They're seizing their assets. They're doing whatever they can to make them unable to defend themselves. Meanwhile, the prosecutor has absolutely no case. And the only way they can possibly win is by setting up the defendant and screwing him over. And it's over bullshit. Like, so many times these cases are like money laundering also. Oh, and and incidentally, the first chapter was talking about William, some middle name Weld. And I was like, why does that name sound so much like Bill Weld? And so I go to look it up. And it was. And apparently he was a prosecutor, and he was working this case where he was trying to prosecute, I think it was the mayor of a city. He was trying to prosecute him for, like, some bullshit corruption. And it's like he did absolutely nothing wrong or nothing illegal. And he was acquitted at the end of the case, but the case went on for 2 years. And because of, like, all the news surrounding this, he was unable to get reelected. And he had been elected,
right.
Like, the people loved him. He was elected like 3 or 4 times or something, served like 6 years. And he was just bullshit that the feds, like, were, you give someone a hammer and everything's a nail. They were just looking.
So it didn't sound like the guy was guilty or anything?
No, I mean, here's the whole thing. The whole thing was because this was it was a small city. It was a mayor. They don't have a lot of money. And in a lot of cases, what they do with this is what they used to do with Congress and the United States president too. You didn't get paid $200,000, $400,000 a year for that job. You got a small per diem whenever you met, and you met a few times a year for a couple of days, and that was it. You weren't like, you didn't spend the entire year raising money for your next election. You didn't spend the entire year writing, coming up with bullshit laws that you could pass and say, look at how I'm trying to save the world. It wasn't that. It was, they get together a couple times, they write a couple things, and that's it. And so people were expected to have their own jobs and their own professions outside of this. They were, whether they were lawyers or in real estate or they had a business, whatever, it didn't matter. They could be, part of the circus. That was the whole thing. You earn your money outside of the government so that you don't need to take government money to pay yourself. That was the whole thing. And so,
yeah, that's probably where public servant came from.
Yes. And so now you have, in small cities, a lot of small cities still do the same thing, like with mayors and city council and all this other stuff. It's not a full-time position. It's in some big cities, yeah, New York, like, yeah.
Sure.
But, small towns, you don't have that. And they're expected to earn their own money so that they're not leeching off the system, because even if they're making $100,000 in a small city, that could be 10% of the budget.
That's huge.
Right?
Yeah.
So now this person that and I might be mixing cases up, but the person who was being prosecuted was basically charged with corruption because he was in real estate before he got elected, and he made a deal with somebody, and they tried to say that he was abusing his power to sell the land and all this other bullshit, but there was absolutely no reason behind that. He was buying and selling land, which is what he did before he got elected, and is what he was doing while he was elected. And they had no reason to believe that he was giving anybody any kind of special treatment because of the power that he had in his position as mayor or city council or whatever. Nothing. And so, but they completely destroyed his life, and they destroyed his political career. But then how is that also going to affect your real estate business afterwards? And it's
Right?
like, my friend who's been going through this, holy shit, they took away his law license. He had to shut down his business. He had to, like, he's been getting fucked, and there's nothing he can do because it's the federal government, and it's like, there's nothing you can do. They're so fucking huge. They're so fucking powerful. It's
Right.
like,
We don't have a big hammer to fight back to that, especially in court, because they have endless amounts of our money to spend dragging it out. He's not sitting in jail while this is getting dragged out, is he?
No, he's been
good.
He's been on house arrest, but I mean,
Oh,
the conditions are like, I don't want to get into too many of the details, but it's so fucking sickening.
well, it makes me sick that they have ruined his livelihood by taking away that license that they made him get in the first place to practice a business that he went to school for how many years and got a degree. I mean, it's just like the levels of bureaucracy and the level of bullshit it just blows my mind, and it pisses me off to no end.
They've taken everything he had. There's this other guy from Louisiana. He's already been convicted. He's Randall Lord, and I can talk about him because he's pretty public about everything. He's a libertarian. He was selling Bitcoin. Okay, now your freeze frame is not that flattering.
I know. It's just connect to another camera, and I'm like, I click the camera button and nothing's happening.
Oh man. Try to turn your camera off and on again.
Okay. I don't know how to do that here. Freaking Skype. I don't know what I'm doing here, Dad. I'm clicking things and nothing's happening. Can you even hear me anymore?
I can.
Okay, good.
There should be like a camera icon at the bottom of your screen. Try to click that one.
I did, and it went totally white.
And then what happened when you clicked it back? Oh, now I don't hear you. Oh, it says bad connection. Okay, I'm gonna try to reconnect here. Actually, I wonder, give me a second here, guys. Anybody who's watching, hang on. I'm going to see, nope, you can't change the bit rate or anything. Advanced. Nope. Skype is garbage too. When this campaign is over, I'm gonna start my software company. I'm gonna replace all this bullshit that we're dealing with.
Yes.
I'm replacing Facebook. I'm replacing Skype and Messenger and all those things. Oh my god. Anyway, so
functions.
What's that?
All the time. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Something that functions all the time, and you don't shadow ban people, and you don't like micromanage. You just kind of have it. People go for it.
Right. And like a little bit, I was just complaining about when we were disconnected. There's no setting in Skype to change the bandwidth. It just automatically tries to adjust whatever it is. So it doesn't know that I'm also trying to stream at the same time. So I don't know if that's got anything to do with it. It doesn't know if like your someone in your house in the other room is watching Netflix at the same time. So maybe you should use a little less bandwidth. You can't tell it that. Anyway. So this guy Randall Lord is he was selling Bitcoins to his friends and family, and he was charged with operating a money service business without a money service business license. Well, so he's charged in Louisiana, and it's from what I understand, it was a federal crime, but there's state agencies who issue these MSB licenses, right? Money service business license. Now, here's the thing. It's also not a license that they investigate your business or anything. It's like I have one. from because I wanted to start a business like a few years ago, so I filed for one. It's literally you type in your name and address, and you're a registered MSB now.
Oh,
That's what
geez.
he didn't do.
So
So
it's just money.
yeah, no, not even money. You don't even pay them for this.
You're kidding. They give
No.
you something for free?
Yeah, no, well, no, not for free. You're giving up your information and privacy. You know, it sounds free, so anybody who's operating one, it's like, oh
Right.
yeah, over here I'm operating an illegal business, potentially illegal business. Because it's like as soon as you file, they're apparently just gonna hop on your ass and investigate you for whatever they can find, which is what they did to Randall. And so they charged him with operating an MSB without an MSB, which okay, that doesn't make sense what I said because he didn't file, so how would they know where to find him? I don't know. But
Right.
he's so but then so he hires a lawyer, and the lawyer doesn't know much about Bitcoin because this is a few years ago. It's still relatively new. Nobody really understands the laws. The IRS was still trying to figure out how they could tax it. And so okay, that just like I just went down a whole nother rabbit hole. I'll come back from that in a second. So and of course it totally derailed my train of thought.
So he got in trouble or investigated
So
for selling or trading Bitcoin between friends and family. Like,
Yeah.
that's like me and you trading baseball cards or something else of value.
Yeah, but since it's money, you got to have a special license, right? But now here's the thing. So he was charged. He hired a lawyer. The lawyer didn't know anything about Bitcoin, and he said, "Well, yeah, you know what? You should plead guilty because you didn't register as an MSB." So he's like, "Shit. Well, that's my only option." And the lawyer's like, "Yeah, that's your only option." So he pleads guilty. Then he calls the Louisiana department that issues the MSBs, and he says, "Do I need an MSB to be able to sell Bitcoin to my friends?" And they said no. So he wasn't operating an MSB. Like, basically they said, no, that's not an MSB. So he wasn't operating an MSB, but he was charged and convicted. He pled guilty to operating an MSB without registering as an MSB. So he went back to the court and said, you know what? My lawyer told me to plead guilty because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But I talked to the actual department who issues the MSBs and says I don't need to file as an MSB because I'm not an MSB. So I would like to retract my plea and insert a plea of not guilty. Now, this is like, okay, this sounds strange to people because, like, no, you already pled. So, because that's how kids fight, right? You already said whatever.
Called it.
Yeah. So, but that's not how it works. Courts actually do this normally. It's not that frequent that it happens, but it's normal. And courts usually accept a change of plea. But they didn't. They said, sorry, you already pled guilty. You're going to jail. Sentencing
It's
is
your law.
Yeah. And he said, but wait a minute. The reason I'm changing my plea is because I'm being charged with operating an MSB without filing, but the department that takes the filing says I don't have to file. And the judge said, well, I'm sorry, you already pled guilty, and it would inconvenience the court to change that plea. It would inconvenience the court. Forget about the fact that you're going to inconvenience an innocent man with 5 or 7 years in prison, and you're going to inconvenience the taxpayer with what, $500,000 that it's going to cost them to keep him in prison, and his family that's not going to get to see him, and all this other bullshit. It doesn't matter. But that's how that fucking justice system works.
Oh my God, that's sickening. He got jail time?
Yeah, he's sitting there right now.
Oh my God. Oh God,
Yeah.
Dan, you just ruined my night.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Meh. You know, he's having a worse night than me. I really should shut the fuck up. I'm sitting
Yeah.
here talking to you, drinking a beer, talking in front of my friend, you know?
Yeah.
So,
No, but I mean, like, these are like really important stories to share, I think, because like
absolutely.
because here's the thing, like, you see so many just instances of, like, you know, somebody gets their ass kicked by a cop, and it's like, oh, well, it turns out he had a criminal record, so maybe he deserved it. Like, even if the circumstances leading up to that didn't justify it, yeah, but he deserved it because he's got a criminal history. It's like, okay, that's a tough position to argue, but then you have people like this who are just like, they're identified by the government, and you know, and here's the thing, they can, like, I swear, you can take any person. I can take you. You can take any person. You can walk outside, and the first person you see, you could, if you had the power that the government has to get access to their bank accounts and everything else, you could charge any single person with money laundering. I guarantee it. Like, that's like
That
some of these,
petrifies.
because some of these things are like these laws are so fucking vague. It's insane. And so then we hire an agency that's tasked with, oh, find some criminal money launderers. Well, if anybody's guilty, well, then anybody, like, oh, let's see, I'm sitting at my desk, right? Imagine this guy comes into work. He's working for the FBI, and he sits down at his desk and he says, I need to track down a money launderer today. Let's see if I can find some leads. And he just starts getting into his computer. Oh, let me just go into a bank and see what kind of records there are. Oh, this guy deposited $10,000 in cash, which requires he fills out a slip so that the bank can report it to the IRS. That shows up in my little FBI computer. Let's investigate that guy. I don't like, he's done this more than once. I'm going to investigate the guy. Then you start pulling up all his, and this could be a guy who's running a fucking restaurant and he just deposits the cash in his bank. That's it. End of story.
We were talking before the show about how, politics in corporate America kind of reflect actual politics. This reminds me exactly of that. So in corporate America, they write the HR rules and things kind of vaguely so that if a manager wants to get rid of someone, they can pick out a behavior and say, oh, it fits here, sorta. I'll write them up for this. And if I get enough documentation, I can do what I need to do. The government writes rules vaguely so that they can be like, well, I don't like that person. Let me find a rule where they maybe are skirting it just a tiny bit. They might not be doing anything below board, but fuck it. I want to nail some people, or I need to nail this person, or whatever. I need to, my quotas, whatever the case may be. And so it is in the way that they are written, and I think that they are written that way on purpose.
Yeah. And that's one thing about the law is that, like, a law that is vague is supposed to be unenforceable. But somehow, I mean, when that's why you have the judicial branch and the legislative branch separate, and the executive branch all separate, so that one of them would be smart enough to say, oh, this is too vague, we can't enforce it. But no, apparently that's failed. It's not supposed to happen. Like, these laws are not supposed to be enforced, at least not the way they are. And yeah, there are so many people going to jail for crimes that are not even crimes.
So, Dan, if you were elected president, I would love to hear all the laws. What?
How many people would I pardon?
How many people would you pardon? How many laws would you just fucking wipe off the books?
I mean,
first month.
Like, I'm really like, I'm tempted to even just say, anybody who's charged with a tax crime, that should be gone. Anybody who's charged with money laundering, this is a difficult one because I know, like,
yeah,
because like that's how they get people like Bernie Madoff, which okay, but he was running a Ponzi scheme, right? Like, was he charged with money laundering, or I don't know. And then there's like the cartels, and it's like, but then again, it's like I really don't care that the cartels are selling drugs. I care that they're killing people, so charge them with murder. I don't care about the money laundering.
Right.
Like, they're not harming anybody by laundering money.
They just harm them when they get pissed off.
Yeah, and it's and that's because the government protects a monopoly. You get rid of that, and you get rid of the murder. So, not to justify the murders, but that's and actually in their defense, here's an interesting one. So there's a town about an hour from here where there's lots of cartel violence. I think there's two cartels that are fighting for dominance in this city. And so, one day you see in the newspaper, there's 3 bodies with severed heads, just like out. And this is a big tourist city, right? There's like, I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars that come in every month in tourism money that go to the city, that, all this other stuff. Of course, the city charges taxes, and then the cartels want to make their money selling drugs to all the tourists, right? So a couple of cartels are fighting over the territory. you see some bodies with severed heads, and a nice little note. And the note says, "Don't worry, tourists. We're not going to kill you. We're not interested in harming any tourists. These are cartel members, and we're just beefing it out. So you're safe."
Yeah, safer already.
So yeah, no. So, but I think that's really interesting, because in the U.S., like, the you know, how it's played out in the media is, don't go to Mexico. It's dangerous. You're going to get kidnapped, and you know. And really, like, no, they want you to spend your tourism money in Florida or Hawaii or, you know, wherever else. And it's, you know, it's media manipulating shit again.
Right.
It's
They love.
yeah, it's, I don't know, it's crazy. But yeah, so money laundering, I don't know. I think that's kind of a case by case thing.
I think absolutely, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of crimes that would be case by case. Like, you know, if you have, man, like somebody who, I don't know, somebody who was shoplifting, and they got, you know, what they were trying to take like $10 worth of shit, and it's their third offense, so they've got 10 years. I don't know, like
yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, there are some cases that, and you know, so here's maybe the thing, right? And I've kind of been thinking about this, because I can't just take a broad brush and say, like, yeah, let's just let all these people free, because, you know, some of them actually are criminals who deserve to be in a tax-funded prison. But, like, you know, maybe the thing to do is to allow, because here's the thing, right? If I do something wrong, or you do something, or if we're even suspected of doing something wrong, what happens? An officer of the government goes to a court and says, "Hey, we need, we have reason to believe something is wrong here. Give us a warrant so that we can retrieve property, do searching, all this other shit," right? So when the government does something wrong, we the people should have that same power to get in. Now, of course, no. We can't be trusted with that. It has to be a government oversight, a government operated oversight committee, which has all of its other problems, because if the government oversight committee is being overseen by, let's say, the president, then there's, like, yeah, it's still in that whole fucked up chain of command.
When you go to work for the government, you get these magical powers that regular people don't have.
Right.
So you can look at documents that regular people's eyes can't possibly,
right.
You know.
And so, and we already have organizations like the what's it called? The Innocence Project, who are going back through cases and reviewing them. What if we just made their lives so easy that the government was obligated to cooperate with them, that they were able to get warrants and actually go into government offices and fuck with their files the same way they can come into our offices and fuck with ours, and make it so that instead of creating a government agency to go back and audit all of the people who are in prison for bullshit crimes, you enabled the people and their families to, you know, maybe hire a discount lawyer, you know, not to have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, but any lawyer could be able to do this, and they'd be able to go and do some investigation and present a case to some sort of a committee that would say, okay, yes, this is a case that should be, you know, either time served because, like, somebody was given 100 years for something that really should have been 5, or just something where they totally got screwed, where they convinced them to plead guilty. That's another thing people don't understand. 90% of these cases that go into courts are guilty pleas, and they're all based on bad information. So a lot of innocent people are going to jail because of this, because they plead guilty. And for the normal folks, the people who haven't grown this distrust of government like we have, because they haven't seen all this shit yet, they just believe, well, why would he possibly plead guilty if he wasn't guilty?
Oh my God, because they pressured him like they always do, and they said, "Oh, we're going to help you out. No, you'll only get this little tiny sentence, and if you roll the dice and you take it to court, you know, you could get this giant sentence. So just take this sweetheart of a deal that, you know, you shouldn't even have to be dealing with anyway in a lot of instances." I'm sorry, I'm a huge, like, Law and Order buff. When I was sick Sunday, I couldn't get out of bed. I was so fucking hungover. Don't drink wine till 5 a.m., kids. On an empty stomach. I literally watched SVU all day long, and it's like the same thing. You know, something horrible, a person is attacked horribly, they browbeat the victim into testifying whether they want to or not, whether they have a case or not. There could be zero evidence, but they're going to browbeat this, innocent person who was viciously attacked into doing their bidding and to make their case. And it's just, oh God.
And it's,
yeah, I just like that show.
I think what's really dangerous about that is that normalizes it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how you get people because I remember, I used to grow up watching movies like Die Hard or what, Lethal Weapon, or
Yep.
Beverly Hills Cop, where it's like, oh yeah, so I get it, like they're not allowed to go into a place without a warrant, but if they know, because and we know the guy's a bad guy because we saw, from the director's perspective, like we have the omniscient perspective of the movie. We know what the bad guys are doing. We know he's the bad guy. We associate that this cop also knows just as well, even though he doesn't have the information that we have as the viewer.
Exactly.
And
but when he kicks in that door, it's like, ooh, hero time. Oh God, now watching those makes me sick.
Yeah, I fucking hate that because I love those movies.
What the fuck are you doing? You're trampling on this, and this right.
Yeah.
And this.
And it's like, but that, like, and so this is one of the reasons I call that stuff propaganda, whether it's intentional or not, because it seems like, okay, so the cops are breaking the rules to do good, but in the real world, they break those rules on a hunch and they get the wrong guy a lot of times. And that,
Yep.
and it's really, really dangerous. And that's why we have the Constitution in the first place. Because this was expected. We knew this was going to happen.
Exactly, because human nature is not all good. It's a mix of good and evil, and we need something to even that out, to say, hey, listen, here's the baseline. Here's what is okay, and these are the rules. I totally lost my train of thought.
We need a baseline. These are the rules.
That's right. So I was watching some show that it was a cop show, the new Hawaii Five-0. And I had been watching the show for a while, and I stopped watching it for a season, and I turned it back on. And they go question this guy at this junkyard, and they put his car in the car smashing thing to make him talk. And I'm like, oh my fucking God.
Right.
I can't believe I used to watch this show.
Yeah,
it is propaganda. It's seeping in everywhere, and that's why I started watching old shows.
Oh, those are no better. I turned on
They're
random
not much.
I turned on a random Mr. Ed episode, and okay, Mr. Ed, and then Lassie. Just
There's
two
propaganda in Lassie?
Yes, two completely random episodes of those shows. I don't even know how I got to them. So the first one was Mr. Ed, and for some reason the guy, the human, I think he's an architect, and he was preparing himself to go give a speech on why people should invest in U.S. savings bonds. And I was like, well, that's fucking weird. And so he was like, I don't know how to sell bonds. I don't know. And then the horse came along, and he gave him all the answers that he's supposed to say. Oh, a U.S. savings bond is 100% guaranteed investment. It's the most interest return that you'll get on anything. And he's saying all these things, and I'm like, holy shit! If you replace U.S. savings bond with any other company bond, that is illegal.
My God.
And then I switched to
if
Lassie.
you replace Mr. Guy, it could be a propaganda video you'd see in 1950s public school.
Yeah, and it's black and white and square, so it kind of reminded me of Reefer Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so I switched over to Lassie, and Timmy. Timmy and his dad were walking through the woods, and they found some kid passed out under a log, and they tried to wake him up. He wouldn't wake up, so they took him back to the house. They left him in bed, and then he finally woke up, and they tried talking to him, and he didn't say a word. And then they realized, oh, this kid's Mexican. He doesn't speak English. And even though he secretly did speak English, but he just didn't want to give away, so he made friends with Timmy. And then Timmy had this internal struggle of, oh my God, do I need to report my friend to the sheriff because the sheriff? And so they made this thing out like where like he goes and he talks to the sheriff. What happens if you saw somebody who came here from and the sheriff's like, well, it's only a line that he crossed, but there's a certain way to do it, and you got to fill out the right paperwork, and it's not a big deal. And so at the end of the thing, he ends up turning his friend over to the sheriff. The sheriff, all nice. Oh, yeah, come on, son, get in the car. We're going to take you to Happy Land and get you here legally. Even though, like, no idea where his parents even are. And so the sheriff drives him off into the sunset. And it's like, holy shit, no, that's not what's about to go down at all.
There's just a Mexican kid wandering around this, Midwestern town by himself?
I mean, I don't know if he got separated from his parents or what, or, I don't even know if they tried to give a backstory there, but
fall in the well, and Timmy and Lassie didn't have to, pull him out of there with a bunch of cuts and bruises.
Yeah, it's crazy. So now I'm afraid to watch Nick at Night too.
Okay, so my daughter used to watch a lot of Nickelodeon, and I didn't realize this at the time. All these shows. Apparently some big producer at Nickelodeon has a kid foot fetish. And they go back and they show all these instances where they're showing kids' feet on shows.
Oh.
When it's really unnecessary. Like, no socks, no shoes. And there's just they make a whole scene about kids' feet. Like,
I'm just picturing this fat guy in a room with a cigar. Yeah, get a close up in those feet over there.
Oh my God, gross.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's crazy. You know who I was thinking about the other day? You remember that kid, Jonathan Brandis? He was an actor. He was in that Sequest movie. He was in like a couple, or it was a TV series. Okay. And he was in like some other ones. He ended up killing himself. And like now that you see like Corey Feldman coming out with like all his stories, like now I'm like whenever I think about that kid, I'm like dude, was this like one of those kids that was going through that same shit and he just couldn't take it and he fucking killed himself? Like,
maybe he said something, and somebody was pressuring him and like threatening him. Listen, you say another word and we'll end your fucking career.
Yeah.
You 12-year-old who just started living your life.
Holy shit. Yeah, no. What if he was like?
Yeah, what Hollywood's done to all these children.
What if he was gonna rat Epstein out to the police, and Hillary was like, "Nope, that's my boy."
Right.
Yeah. Holy shit.
I got him.
Man, that's such a weird, and like, because okay, so Hollywood's also like in the same area as where Scientology came from, and like I don't know if did you ever see that documentary? I think it was called Coming Clear.
Was that the Leah Remini one?
Maybe it was on HBO a couple years ago.
I think I saw most of that.
Yeah. It's fucking insane. And like, I mean, I have a friend who was, he's got a personal story where like somehow he was at one of their churches because they invited his daughter's high school there for like a thing, like a ceremony. I don't know what they were doing, but he said, and my friend's like a total gun nut, right? So he knows all the like loopholes to get whatever kind of guns you want in California, in LA. And he said like he had this weird, like he got this weird vibe because there were a lot of guards there who had big arms, not big arms, but big arms. And so he's like, yeah, let's get the hell out of here. So he got his wife and his kid and they left. And his cousin didn't want to leave. And then like later he got a call from his cousin like, yeah, we're all locked in here. Like they're not letting us leave. And like I guess they were doing like the hard sell to like try to get him to join or some weird shit like that. But I'm like, and this is like, I think their main church is like on Hollywood Boulevard. And like, it's just weird that, I mean, there's a lot of weird people in LA to begin with, but like, are those connected? And especially when you hear like, the same kind of weird behavior that's going on in like these pedophile circles and like what's going on with Hollywood. And it's fucking crazy.
Dude, I think there is a huge pedophile global ring. It's the elite, it is the rich, it is the bored rich is what I think it is. I think they have so much money and they have done all the things and bought all the things and they're bored and like, what can we do next? And oh, well, let's fuck kids and let's spirit cook or whatever the fuck they're doing out there. And they're so rich and so high powered and they're all buddies that they protect each other. So look at Danny Masterson in the Church of Scientology. He had numerous victims come out against him, and then he had numerous people from the Church of Scientology come out and say, no, those women are all full of shit. They're emotionally damaged. They're this, they're that. Well, these women had all left the church somehow, luckily. And so they do everything that they can to discredit them, and I heard that half of this shit happened in the church, and they're fine with it.
Yeah. I mean, we hear all this about, I don't want to attack the Catholic Church, but, we hear every once in a while that they're, some of their priests are doing some things, and somehow, I don't know, it's very rare that you hear one of them actually get prosecuted or anything.
I've never heard of a priest going to actual jail. Have you?
I don't think so. I want to say I'm hoping it's because I just don't know about it, but
right.
Hold on, let me Google this real quick.
Yeah, I do, because, okay, so I typically hear they get moved around, and if it does go to court and they do get convicted, it's typically I want to say a slap on the wrist, but again, it seems like none of these go to court. It's all after the fact. We find out after they've been moved around and after numerous people have come forward, and somehow it gets leaked, and that's the only reason we find out about it, because we all know about these huge campaigns that they had inside the Catholic Church to bury this for decades.
Right. Yeah, no, here's one, this guy in New Mexico, long-term abuse of altar boy in the 90s, and it says he got 30 years, I think.
Wow.
Jailed for
I wonder
30
how
years.
many he actually served.
So, well, it's also possible that he's too low on the totem pole to be worth protecting. I don't know. Or, shit, maybe he took the fall for someone else. Who knows? What's equally disturbing, and so this is a kind of an issue that I have where people like really jump to conclusions on like, oh my god, the guy's a pedophile, so maximum charges. There's they're like people are they really get into the angry mob mentality and they're like, out, let's go hang the guy. There was a story, and I actually talked to the guy where he I want to say he served like 10 or 15 years or something in prison. What happened was his mom got married to some guy, or vice versa. One of his parents, another parent with another child, with the daughter, and so the parents, they didn't like each other, so they separated. And in order to, so there's some, I don't know the whole story, or I used to. The parent of the daughter, so not his parent, but the parent of his step parent, accused him of molesting her, of molesting the daughter, like his stepsister,
Right.
and convinced his stepsister to lie on the stand when she was like 7. Now she gets a little bit older. She's like 13 or 14. She realizes what went down and like, holy shit, my stepbrother's in jail. Or it might have been her actual brother. I don't remember the details. She goes back to the court. I remember the fucked up part. She goes back to the court and she tells the judge, hey, I was convinced to lie because I was a kid and I had no idea what was going on, but none of that stuff ever happened. My brother, or stepbrother, is innocent. How do we get him out? And they had a lawyer that tried to go through this process, and the judge basically told this little girl, hey, keep your fucking mouth shut, because we don't want to undo this stuff, because it's a lot of fucking paperwork and we don't want to deal with it, and you're just going to create problems. So just go fucking shut up and let the guy serve the rest of his term.
Oh my god.
And it's just like, this is what This is why some of those charges are so dangerous, because they're emotional. It's like, yeah, fucking hang pedophiles. Yeah, they don't deserve to be on this earth. But at the same time, like people are ready to not give somebody a fair trial over something like that, and it's like, but you don't even know. That's the whole point of the fair trial. Did this
Right.
even really happen?
Like, you can say whatever you want. You can say somebody did some fucked up shit, but I don't want, like, no. We need facts and evidence. Like, let's have the fucking trial. You cannot rule on emotion and
Right.
just an accusation. I can't believe that people even, I am so sick of these fucking judges. Every single time I go to the voting booth, it's always out, out, out. I don't even care. I'm just done.
Yeah, that's one way to enforce term limits. Yeah, but it's like it's I don't know what to do, because it's like, on one hand you have innocent people being charged and going, and then on the other hand you have like the actual sexual predators who are like involved with big organizations, and they're let free. So it's like the wrong people are going, and the people who aren't going should be going. It's just fucked up all around. How do we deal with that? I don't know.
A revamp of the legal system, perhaps, because it seems that if you have a high-powered lawyer, if you have the right friends, maybe if you know the right judge or the right political, people, things seem to go your way, and I don't think that that's fair. But I don't know how to fix that, because I think that lawyers are worth what we pay them. I think that they are worth a lot of money, but I also think that you should be entitled to more than just a public defender, because those folks definitely have too much on their plate and not enough give a fuck.
Right. And well, here's what's fucked up about the public defender. Like, if you think about it, and they find some way to polish this system off, but this is basically how it works. An evil prosecutor comes along, finds his victim. This is the guy I want to go to jail. I'd love to just throw him in jail, in prison for the rest of his life, but the Constitution says he has to have a lawyer. And if he can't afford one, I have to hire one for him. Otherwise, I can't prosecute him. So the prosecutor sometimes, in many cases, will hire an attorney to go defend the person that he's trying to throw in prison, which creates a complete conflict of interest. But so many times, the public defenders receive their paychecks from the prosecutors. And the prosecutors, knowing this, will just say, oh, well, let's see. I'm going to prosecute 10,000 people. Let's hire one defense lawyer for all of that. And it's and they can just totally screw that over. And, of course, the judges don't really care, because that's not their thing to deal with. He's got a lawyer that's as good as it's going to get. And so you get those lawyers who just say, yeah, just plead guilty, because I don't have the time to defend your case or even look at it.
So going back to what we were talking about earlier with that one judge you were talking about, just tossing people in jail, what do they get out of that? Are they getting kickbacks from the jail? Are they getting kickbacks elsewhere? Like, I don't understand what is the motivation for jailing a bunch of people unnecessarily.
Well, for the prosecutors, it's, the more people they prosecute, the higher their success rate, and that makes them look good, because they're going to go back to get reelected and say, look, I've got a 90% success rate at trial. I've been throwing criminals in prison left and right. I'm cleaning up our streets. That's how he gets reelected. The judges are, I think they're kind of the same. I'm sure there's some kickbacks sometimes. You've got some people who are just power freaks and, control freaks, and they want that. And then you've got judges that, I remember one of my friends who's a lawyer, he used to complain to me all the time. He's like, I can't believe this fucking judge. Every time he runs, he puts on his billboards, I'm going to be tough on crime. And every time he would point out that billboard, he would point out, that's not your job. Your job as the judge is supposed to be the referee of a case between the plaintiff and the defendant, and that's it. The referee. Yep. The jury's supposed to decide. The jury's supposed to be the one to say this person goes to jail, not the judge. The judge does not get to be tough on crime. That's not your job. So, but if a judge is tough on crime, then he gets to use that in his advertisements, which means he gets to raise more money for his campaign. He gets to win. He gets he gets taxpayers' money. He probably gets to siphon money out of his campaign war chest. Um, and then some people are just, hey, um, when you're bored, I guess, hey, give me some power and let me fucking play with people's lives.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there's, why do kids torture rats?
You know, I didn't realize we were getting comments. Sorry, I'll shut that off. It's making noise.
Anyways, we're towards the end of the show. We're past the end of the show, but we had some interesting shit going on. So,
We did.
yeah. Okay. So I'm looking. I thought the screen froze again, but that's just Facebook. So I'll send you a screenshot of this one.
Okay.
But I don't think that's what's live on Facebook. But anyway, actually, yeah, I'm seeing some comments in here. Bill Weld was a prosecutor who ran for governor on his conviction rate. Yeah, that doesn't sound very libertarian to me.
He's a faketarian. That's why we call him that.
Yeah. And, because I didn't support Gary Johnson the last time around, and I sure as hell don't support Weld, but like I hear people like, yeah, they're nice guys if you get to know them. And, I met somebody who spent some time hanging out with W, and they said the same thing. Yeah, he's really kind of a cool guy if you hang out with him. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, I'm sure, everyone's a cool guy if you hang out with them. I'm sure, like, Hitler was probably a cool guy, if you were on his good side and hanging out with him at the country club or something, right? Like, but that's the thing. Like, you can have a wonderful personality, but like, this is the thing. Like, when people say like, oh, my friend turned around and stabbed me in the back. Well, why? Because you liked them because they had a great personality and you guys were vibing together. But when it came down to what people are actually willing to do and what they're willing to do for you and where you stand on their totem pole, that's where their true colors come out. And that's why people they get disappointed in their friendships and everything because a lot of friendships are formed at the superficial level. And it's like, yeah, so Bill Weld, Gary Johnson, they might have been great guys, but, and I guess, yeah, I don't know. I still have a couple personal issues with Johnson, but Weld, like, I gotta say, like, I don't think there's a whole lot of integrity to that person.
I have to agree.
Like, yeah, show me somebody who's had like a very, deep, meaningful relationship with him. Who says he's a great guy, and maybe I'll listen, but
Other than his wife.
Well, yeah, but okay, well, so that's another thing, right? Hitler and Mao probably would have been great friends, right?
Really? They would have said, "Oh, he's a great guy. Love to hang out with him."
They can be, on a deep philosophical level, like, yeah, we understand each other's philosophy. We really get into this thing where, like, we get stoned and we have like transcendent out of body experiences and we share like all this spiritual energy and everything because we want to do the same thing. And it's like, yeah, but the shit you want to do together is really kind of fucked up. So I'm not going to take your word for whether or not that guy's a good guy. I'm just saying.
Right? Yeah, it goes back to that whole, don't take advice from someone you wouldn't take advice from, right? Somebody who's not got their...
I'm gonna use that quote. Don't take advice from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
I think I may have fucked that up. It's a possibility. I've had a long day.
Oh man. All right. So it's been great talking with you. Your show, Drunk and Disorderly. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Yeah, we go live twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Facebook at 8 p.m. Central, and we have some really cool guests coming up. Tomorrow we will have. Let me pull up my calendar. Sorry, I should have been. We have Emily. Emily Hurley tomorrow. And next week we have Max Abrams as well as Aaron Lewis. Aaron Lewis is running for mayor of Hartford. He recently joined the LP. He's coming to us from the Democratic Party. He went out and gave a little press release saying that, you know, he has been expected to vote Democratic and be Democratic his entire life, and they have done nothing for him, and they continue to do nothing for him. So he is jumping to the LP, and hopefully he will get some good votes and make some difference up in Hartford. But you know, we're super excited. We appreciate all of our subscribers and our viewers, and anytime you guys tune in, we appreciate it.
Awesome. And if somebody's interested in your show, where can they tune in?
You can tune into D&D Liberty on Facebook. We also have we're on the Launchpad Media, and we are on YouTube and every place you find your favorite audio-only podcasts. And on Anchor, if you choose to donate or subscribe monetarily, we appreciate that very, very much.
Awesome. What was that, Anchor? I might have to sign up for that. I'm gonna get some money out of you guys.
Aza Raptor, I believe, on Anchor. So AZA Raptor, because, you know, Zach is a dinosaur and a weirdo.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome though. And of course I've been on your show, and it's an awesome show. So definitely go check out Drunk and Disorderly and get one of. Are you guys selling t-shirts? You have some pretty awesome t-shirts.
Thank you. Yeah, I love our t-shirts. Our logo was created by Christian Malzarte for free. Thank you, Christian. I love our logo.
I know Christian.
Yeah, we've got a Redbubble, and we're on the Mad Statist. So check us out there.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you too much from your wine and your cat.
Say goodnight.
All right. It was great having you on. I'm pressing buttons trying to manage the show over here. I will see you next time. My show or your show. I don't know. Who knows? Any bets? Is taxation theft?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Awesome. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Taxation is theft.
Please, at least leave us alone in our living room.
My job is to find the truth.
Double the taxes. I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. Triple the taxes.
This is an IRS agent's dream.
If you think that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourself.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Sorry, but I don't do taxes.
Did you see the memo about this?
The government is a greedy piglet.
Just leave us alone.
Do you know what Ralph just said?
The roads.
You boys like me!